Welcome. Welcome to this algebra lesson, and this algebra lesson is about how to use the commutative and associative properties to simplify. So, use the commutative and associative properties to simplify. Important things to note: commutative property is simply, you can think of it as swapping the values that you're going to add or multiply, and it doesn't affect anything. When you use commutative property, a plus b is equal to b plus a. 6 plus 7 would be equal to 7 plus 6. They're both 13. It doesn't matter if you swap the 6 and the 7 when you're adding them or multiplying them. You still come out with the same answer. Same thing with the associative. If you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 and you group the 1 and the 2, it's going to be 3. And then we get 3 plus 3 is 6. Same thing happens here again. If you add a, let's go ahead and move this parentheses over just a bit for neatness and readability. And you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 and group the 2 and the 3. You have 1 and you group the 2 and the 3, that's 5. And 1 plus 5 again is 6. So associative or commutative, you can think of commutative as swapping the values on the other side of the equal. Swap the a and the b, have b and a. Again, with multiplication and addition both. And with associative, you think of as grouping. Here, a plus b plus c, you group the a and the b. Here, a plus b plus c, you group the b and the c. Let's look at some examples of how you could use these properties to, again, simplify an expression. Remember, an expression doesn't have equal in it. An equation does. So these are expressions. Well, I have 14 plus 8 plus 2 plus 6 in this expression. I'm going to go ahead and add up all these values and use, why don't I use the commutative property? So that just means I could say swap the 8 and the 6. So I can put the 8 down here and the 6 down here. And then I could use the associative property. I could group the 14 and the 6 here in parentheses and group the 2 and the 8 in parentheses. So that's the associative property, just grouping. And then I can add the 14 and the 6 to get 20. And then I can add the 2 and the 8 to get 10. A final property I can use is addition property. I can add the 20 plus 10 to get 30. And again, I use the commutative property to swap values and add them, and the associative property to group them. Let's look at another example here. Let's look at this example right here. So in this example right here, we have 10 times 3 times 2. And I'm just going to pick out the associative property and associate the 10 and the 3. Order of operations, what we do first is in the parentheses. 3 times 10, or 10 times 3 is 30. So I'm left with 30 times 2, and that's simply the multiplication property. I'll multiply 30 times 2 to get 60. Okay, so that's that example, the second example, and we use the associative property and the multiplication property. Let's look at another example here. This one right here, 14 plus 20 plus 10 plus 3. And why don't we go ahead and just associate the 14 and the 20. We'll group them together with parentheses. And we'll go ahead and group the 10 and the 3 together with parentheses. Now keep in mind, I could group any of these numbers. We'll still get the same answer. It's just the fact that I am grouping. I'm using the associative property. I'm choosing to group the 14 and the 20. And the 10 plus 3. 14 plus 20 will give us 34, and 10 plus 3 will give us 13. We use the associative property to group those. The final thing we need to do to add these two, we use the addition property, and 34 plus 13 will give us 47. So again, you can use the properties in different ways. All of them are, there are different possibilities. Let's look at this final example right here. 4 1/2 plus 1 plus 1 1/2 plus 6. Well, I decided right here I would go ahead and swap the 1 and the 1 1/2 right here. Commutative property is swapping them, changing their place. That way I can get the mixed fractions together. And so I have 4 1/2 and 1 1/2. And I'm going to go ahead and use the associative property and associate the 1 and the 6 over here. In this step, I've added the whole part. 4 plus 1 is 5, the whole numbers, And here I've added the fractions 1/2 and 1/2 will add up to give me 1. The next step, again, I have associated these two values in parentheses. I'm going to go ahead and just add the 6 and the 7. 5 plus 1 is 6, and 1 plus 6 is 7. Add these two final values, and I got 13. So this is kind of an overview of these properties, commutative and associative. Again, doesn't change anything. Commutative, if you use addition and you commute, and you swap the A and the B to get B and A in the addition, or you do A times B and swap it to B times A with the commutative property, you still get the same answer. Again, 6 times 7 is the same as 7 times 6 if you swap those two. Again, commutative is also not going to change the outcome of this expression or equation. So, thank you very much for attending this channel, and make sure you subscribe, ask those questions, and have a great day. Thank you.